Hi, my name's Paul Cresswell. Welcome to Paul's Tackle Reviews. The normal purpose of this channel is to give you reviews of tackle tried and tested out on the bank by an unbiased, unsponsored angler, and that's me. And there's lots of videos for you to look at on my channel. At the minute, we're in the middle of a series I'm doing, an instructional series about how to fish paste and trying to take the mystery out of this very good summer tactic. So I've already done the first video on floats, line, hooks and elastic. The second video, mixing the bait and what consistency to use. Today I'm looking at where to fish paste, plumbing up, feeding and pull pots. The other three parts are coming very soon. I've got a series of on the bank footage in the next one showing the float bobbing around, trying to determine what's a bite, what isn't a bite. And then I'm going to do a video on how to keep reasonably clean when you're fishing with paste, and then a final little wrap up where you show me doing the whole thing start to finish. So where to fish paste, and I'm not talking about the venues here, although obviously I think it's going to be a toughie if you try it on the Gloucester Canal. But any venue with a good head of carp and skimmers, paste will work, and paste is best fished in shallower water. Ideally 3-4 foot is great. I've also fished it in the margins. I think up to about 7 foot is the method I've shown in this video, i.e. no shot on your line and an awful lot of tip showing. When you get beyond that, it gets very difficult to control it, and you're more likely for your hook to pull out of your paste because your float's a long way away and there's a lot of water in between. If you get into 7 foot and beyond, and this is something I've done, I would fish a traditional pole float, a pellet pole float with a fairly thick tip, but probably have more tip out than usual, maybe an inch of tip, and then maybe put 2 or 3 inches of line on the bottom, so you've got shot down the line, anchoring your bait, and again you're waiting for the sail away bites. If you are fishing in deeper water, then certainly at the beginning I'd use more firm paste than softer paste, because there is that water pressure and the float moving a little bit with the wind puts more strain and could pull the hook out of the bait. But the ideal place to fish it is around 5 to 7 meters out. So we're talking top 2 plus 2 or top 2 plus 3. And I'll just explain what that means, because somebody once put that on as a question on one of my videos. Top 2 plus 2 means you've got your top kit, that's your top 2, and then plus 2 is 2 more sections, plus 3 is 3 more sections. On a lot of venues at this kind of range, you're getting 3 to 4 foot of depth, and that's a really good place to certainly start. Now, there will be days when it doesn't work close in and you've got to fish further out, and you then got to weigh up that paste is a little bit slower. If you miss a bite, you've got to ship in, you've got to weigh up whether it's the right method. But there will be days, and I've had days where I've fished paste at 13 meters and it's been the best method to catch fish. What I will say with paste is, if you've got a swim that's bubbling and the fish are rooting around in the sill, paste is an excellent choice bait. And if I was fishing pellets and then it went a bit like that, I might well get a paste rig out and try it, because it sits there on the bottom. The fish are kind of slurping stuff up. They're not feeding by sight. It's a bit of a mess down there. It's all cloudy, and they will then suck up the paste. I do use paste in the margins, and it's an excellent tactic. But in the margins, let's say you've got 2 foot of water, so you've got fish crammed into a smaller area. Therefore, when I'm fishing paste in the margins, I tend to fish 6, even 12-inch over depth, tip the bait in and try and get the float maybe towards the bank, out of the way. You'll still know when you've got a bite because it will all shoot off, and you'll see that in the next video that I do as well. So if you fished dead depth in the margin, like I'm going to show when you plumb up in a minute, all those fish moving about in that area, you're risking a tail catching your line and pulling your hook out of your bait. So you just want to try and keep it all a little bit calmer down there. And there have been occasions, and the other week I was fishing in barely over a foot of water, and I was fishing 2 foot over depth, and I even put a BB shot about a foot. So lowered my bait, tried to get the shot to fall to the side, so I've got nothing there, no line for the fish, keeping my flow out the way to the left, and then just wait for it all to shoot off. I'm now going to look at plumbing up, and I'm just going to put a short little video of me plumbing it in my tube outside. Right, let's look at plumbing up. That you should always do whenever you're fishing, but it's really important with paste. So the first thing I'd say is to get a really good, nice, wide-ish, flat-bottomed plummet. I use the Guru one. This is their 20 gram. I've also got the 30 gram. Excellent plummet. So lower the plummet onto the bed, and what you're looking for ideally is, I think you can see there that I've got that set to there, so I'm just below the black marker, but I'm not all the way down here. And don't forget, if there was no plummet on, it would be at the spring eye. So I've just brought it in a little bit, and that's where I'd set my float, and importantly then hook it up on your pole, and then I'd mark it. I use these white crayons, they're for tire marking crayons. I got them off eBay, dirt cheap. Mark your pole, comes off with your finger after you finish fishing, but doesn't wash off while you're using it. So when you've plumbed up like that, that is an estimate of where you want to be. But the lake bed is rarely flat. There's always stones, especially if you're closer to the bank. So the silt can also, the fish can move that away, so your swim gets a little bit deeper, and other factors such as if you put a big bit of paste on, your float tends to sit a little bit lower as well. So it's okay me in the tube showing perfection, but real life isn't like that. This is why we have a long tip, and sometimes maybe half the tip's out, sometimes the whole tip, and you can tell that you're actually over depth, but you've got that flexibility with the long tip. What I will say is don't be lazy. So whenever I start, the first half a dozen put-ins, I might be moving the float 5 mil up, 5 mil down. I'm trying to find what gives me enough tip showing on any particular day so that I can fish paste. I don't want too much, I don't want too little, but you will have to adjust it during the day. Don't just plumb up once and say, I've plumbed up, that's it, I'm fishing, and you've got that much float sticking out. Let's move on to feeding. And the first thing I'll say, my first put-in when I'm fishing paste, I've put no feed with it. I've gone out, I've got my piece of paste, and I just see what happens, because more bait in the swim more fish, more churning up means more foul hookers and less bites, if you like. The fish might already be there. Your paste going in gives a little bit of attraction in the water, and it's worth just seeing what you can get away with, because years ago, when we all used to fish paste, we used to big pot it and put tons in and try and get loads and loads of fish. And we've all learned through the genius of things like Jamie Hughes that actually feeding less and controlling your peg and not having too many fish is the way you want to do it. If I do need to feed, my preference is 6mm pellets, maybe 4mm pellets, I don't think that makes a huge difference, or corn. And I've fished just corn with paste in the past, because what you're putting in then is heavy baits that will sit on the bottom. So the fish come in, they're wafting it all around. Your bait's not moving very far, it's not coming off the bottom, so you're not creating the kind of problems you could get if you, say, put a pot of micros in and all of a sudden the whole thing's swishing up. But there will be days where you'll need to fish micros. I just kind of regard micros as my last resort, or ground bait even, maybe if you're in the margins, because you can get an awful lot of mess. If you can control the fish by using 6mm and corn, then that's going to be a much better and much cleaner swim, and you'll hit more bites. What I will say is, you're going to have a pot, and I'm going to come on to the pots in a minute. Just because you've got a pot on your boat doesn't mean you have to feed. And I see so many people doing this where I've got a pot, I'll put feed in every single time. Think about what you're doing. And if I go in the second time and I haven't had a bite the first time, but I've struck off my paste, so I've left something in the water, I might put 6mm pellets and a piece of paste and go back out. Feel your way in. Don't go mad. There will be days where they want absolutely tons of bait, and that's great. But if they don't and you put tons of bait, you're just ruining your swim and reducing the chance of getting a bite. I did say then about striking off your bait, so don't ship out, tip your paste in and sit for 10 minutes. That's not the way to do it. I will go out 3-4 minutes. If nothing happens, strike the bait off. And we saw in the previous video in the tank that lifts the bait off the bottom and it then goes back down. It creates some cloud in the area, some scent for maybe fish to pick up on, and then you're feeding your peg every time. Even if you think your bait's come off, because I don't think it has a lot of the time, still strike at the end. You don't want to drag your bait through and create a channel back to where you were. Always strike it off. You never know, and you're creating some attraction there. And if you think I've overdone it, or it's just a mess, I've had to put micros, I'm foul looking fish all the time, stop, set up another swim, might only be 2 yards to the right, replumb, because the world isn't flat, so you need to make sure you're getting it right, and start again. And it's amazing how starting a new line you can get a kind of bonus of a couple of fish, and these fish aren't daft, they will move about, and then you can regulate your feed better in this new swim. Right, pole pots. These are absolutely essential. Now, when we all started fishing this years ago, we used to put a cable tie on your number 2 section, and then we'd have the float come in, the line over the cable tie and a piece of paste, and we'd ship out. So your paste was above the water, but you can imagine it was fairly firm paste. A lot of the time when I'm paste fishing, if I did that now, the paste wouldn't get out there because it's too soft, and softer baits generally get more bites. So we need pots. And I've got 3 pots here, and the first one is by Frenzy. I don't know if they still make this. I've had this years. If I dropped this in, I'd probably go in after it. it's got a very big hole underneath, and when you put that on the top kit, and there's another video coming soon, it's about 70 centimeters from the end of your kit. So you can have your rig kind of looped with your paste in there as you ship out. Here's another one, Preston Innovations, and you used to get these free, I think, when you bought their paste. I don't know whether you still do. Again, it's got a very big hole at the bottom, so this goes on about the same distance as that one. So you're about 70 centimeters away from the end of your tip. I've got the new Preston model of paste flow, and it's got a bigger hole than the other cups I use, and these cups are brilliant in all sizes. And this one goes about 40 centimeters from the tip. Now, generally speaking, I use these two. If it was really shallow, I'd use that. Now, you might see some videos where people still have their pole pot right on the end, and they manage to make that work. I just can't get that to work for me. You get spins, you get tangles, the wind catches hold of it. It just doesn't work for me. So I like these a little bit further down the pole. But the issue then is when you ship out, you tip it in, you then need to bring your pole back towards you to put your flow over your bait. So you're always going to have a little bit of pole sticking out. Now, sometimes I might have top 2 plus 2, and I'll be fishing on the joint of the 5th and 6th section, and I'll have most of a section behind me. I'm quite fortunate. I've got a short dolly butt that fits my number 5. I've got one that fits 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way up to the butt, to the big butt section. So what I tend to do is I put the dolly in, ship out, end of the dolly, turn it, bring it back, and then my elbow is on the joint of the dolly and the next section. I'm going to put a video demonstration of that I've tried to do in the garden, and let's have a look at that now. Right, here I am in the garden. I'm just going to show you about shipping out. And I also would like you to pretend that the plummet is actually the paste. So I would sit with my top kit under my arm and make a piece of paste up and put it in the cup. It's important then, obviously, you keep the cup upright. I'll put it on from the left side, so I will need to turn it to the right when I get out there. So a little bit slower than you maybe normally would if you were fishing pellet or something. You would take it out, and I'll take it right to the end of my little dolly boat, dip it in, and then bring the float back over the top, and then I'm fishing. And my elbow is on the joint of my dolly and my main poles. It's nice and secure, and I'm away fishing. And then if you come back, and this is something, if you don't get a fish, is maybe you can swing the rig to you and leave it connected to your pole as well. Do the same thing again. In the pot, and then keep the pole fairly low, nice and smooth, all the way over, tip it over, and then bring it back over, as you can see. So just to recap there, putting the top kit under my arm, I've got the pot ready. I make the paste, put the paste in the pot, but if you're putting feed in, I recommend you put the feed in the pot first before you put the paste in, because sometimes even with these, the paste can stick to it a little bit. If you've got the bait at the bottom, then it helps kind of flush it out. So put the feed in, put the paste in, connect your top kit, ship out nice and smooth, nice and slow, keeping your top kit low to the water, get right to the end of my dolly boat, I tip it in, and I tip it that way because I've put the bait on that way. I then draw it back and put the float exactly over where I'm fishing, and I normally therefore have half a section stuck behind me. But if you haven't got dolly butts, there's nothing wrong with having a section stuck behind you or half a section, but you need to take account of the fact these aren't at the end of your pole. If you want to have a go fishing at the end of the pole, you might be able to get it to work. I just think life's an awful lot easier if you're not. Like I say, the Preston ones will be easy to get hold of, and these go about 40 centimetres back. So you'll need to ship out 40 centimetres more and then come back. That's it for this video today. I hope you found that interesting. If you want to give me a like or subscribe, we've got the other videos coming, hopefully not too long. The next one's really just about me sitting down and editing. I think I've got about a dozen clips of bites and the float shooting under and me missing bites and me foul hooking fish as well. Plenty of videos on my channel to have a look at if you want to see a lot of the tackle reviews again. If you've got any comments or questions, people below the video, I always try and get back to people, even if it's just a comment, well, I do it differently, or I like my pole pot at the end, whatever. We're all different, we all fish differently. I'm just trying to give some pointers. Until next time, tight lines.